Okay, welcome to Transposition Part 1. In this video, I will go over understanding transposition and changing a song into a new key. I will have two more additional videos on transposition following this video. The first one will be on transposing from major to minor or vice versa, and the second one will be on transposing instruments. I will have three different methods of describing what is going on to help you understand this topic more. So method one will be a beginner level, where anyone with an average level of musical understanding can comprehend it. Method two goes further into applying this into written music, and method three develops into how transposition correlates with note functions and chord functions, which can help us understand why this works even more. Transposing a song can be as simple as taking a melody that is in one key and placing the same melody in a new key. This will be described more in depth throughout this video, but you'll probably see that this is easier and simpler than you probably expect it to be. Let's get into it. I'm going to have a simple melody in C major, okay? So I'm going to have the melody of C, D, E, G, and C. So again, there are two ways that we can start to do this, and I find the second to be easier, but it involves reading music in written and standard notation, while the first method does not require reading music at all. So the first method here, we take the melody that we have and we identify what key it is in. So we already were told that this is a simple melody in C major. So we already are told that this is in C major. We already know that. The melody starts on the note C, so this actually makes it kind of easier too, because when your note starts on the key it is in, so we're in the key of C, and it starts on the note C, it makes it easier because you're starting on that first note in the key, and you'll see how it makes it easier throughout this. So next we got to label some things. Now we label each of the steps in the melody with C being 1. First, the C major scale is labeled 1 through 7. So first we're going to get our scale that we're in, C major, and we're going to label it 1 through 7. So as you can see, our C major scale has the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And then again, if you just keep going, it goes right to C again. So that's why we have 1 through 7, because those are the notes that make up the scale of C major, and we're going to label them 1 through 7. Okay, so our melody is labeled in accordance to those numbers that we labeled for our major scale. So as you can see, our 1, 2, and 3 are just C, D, and E in both of these. And since we went from our 3 to our 5 here, we're going from E to our G. So we're just labeling it in accordance. In this case, this is actually going from C, D, E, G. It's going up, and then it's going up again to that next C, an octave up. But because it is also C, and this is C, they're both 1, because that's what they are labeled in the major scales. So now we just take a new key and we label it 1 through 7. So let's do G major. So as you can see, I just said G right here, but I'm calling it G major. So the thing is, if it's not labeled major or minor and it doesn't say anything, you automatically are going to know that it is major. And if it is minor or something else, it will be labeled. But again, if it's not labeled at all, you just know, okay, it's major. So we have the G major scale here. If you want to know how to create the major scales, the major scale pattern helps you create that. And then if you want to understand major scales, Circle of Fifths helps you understand that. I'll have two links in the description for videos that go over those topics. But here we have the G major scale. And as you can see, the G major scale has the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. And basically, it having F sharp at the end is what makes it G major, other than it starting on the note of G. So since we are now using the key of G major, 1 becomes G. So as you can see, it's just 1 through 7, just like in C major, but it's following the G major scale. So now our melody is going to follow the same pattern as before. Before we had 1, 2, 3, 5, and 1 in C major, which made that melody. So now let's apply that same pattern to our notes that are in G major. Then we get this pattern of notes. We get G, A, B, D, and G. So it's the same 1, 2, 3, 5, and 1, but it's following the notes that are in G major, and because of this, now the same melody will sound the same, but it is in G major. As you can see, all we do is start the new melody on the note of the new key, then we follow the same pattern as before using the notes in the new scale. So let's do another one. We will still be in C major to begin with, but now we're going to have a new melody. So we have C major here again, it's those same notes labeled 1 through 7, and we're going to have a new melody in C major, which is going to be the pattern of 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 1. So now let's apply that same pattern, 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 1 in a new key. So let's do B major. First, we must know the notes that are in B major. After doing this many times, all of this will be in your head and you will not have to write this down anymore. But for now, we're going to be writing it down to make it visually understandable. Okay, so here we have the B major scale. So we have quite a lot more sharps in this scale, as you can see. That's the reason why I chose it, is so we can actually understand that it doesn't matter how many sharps or flats you have in your key that you're using. All that matters is that we're following this process of labeling our key 1 through 7, and we're figuring out our melody, and we're figuring out the pattern of those notes, and we're just plugging in the correct sort of notes to the correct numbers, okay? So remember, we had a melody pattern of 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 1, and as you can see above here, we again just labeled B major 1 through 7. So now let's apply this to B major, and out comes these notes. We have B, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and B. So again, this might look more confusing now that there are sharps in this progression, but it's simply the same concept as before. So we took the same pattern in one scale and we copied the same pattern in a new scale. And to do that, we just got our first note of our new scale, started on that note, and then followed the same pattern as before, but using the notes in the new scale. Okay, so now we move on to the second method. To do this, you take the melody and you write it on the musical staff with the clef of your preference. I will be using the treble clef, as that seems like the most common clef that people use or begin reading. So we have a melody in C major. So here's the staff right here, and we have the treble clef right here. So we're going to start adding notes in accordance to this clef. So we have C, G, E, F, A, C. So again, this is easy because the first note of the melody is C. Now that it is written on sheet music, we see that it is a pattern of 1, 5, 3, 4, 6, and 1. Now all we have to do is write that same pattern on the line or space that is the new key that we want to work with. Okay, so let's remember that pattern. We have a 1, 5, 3, 4, 6, and 1. Okay, so let's choose a new key. We'll choose E major, and all that we do is we write the pattern of notes starting on the new spot that is E. Okay, so let's do that now. Okay, so now that we followed that same melody pattern and we just started on the note of E, we have the same thing. We have 1, 5, 3, 4, 6, and 1. And now all that we do is we change the key in the staff into the key that we're using. So in this case, we're using E major. So an easy way to think about that would just be think about the circle of fifths, and just to think that when you go away from your C, you have G, D, A, E. So we have 4 sharps in the key of E major, and those sharps are going to be F, C, G, and D. And if you want to understand how I did that, check out my video on the circle of fifths. Okay, so as you can see, to change this into E major, all that I did was I added the accidentals of the key. So in the key of E major, we have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp, and we add that on the staff. So as you can see here, I added that in order: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. Now that the sharps of the new key are added to the staff, our new melody is now written in the correct key and starting on the correct note. So that's all we had to do. And in my opinion, this is easier because you can see the patterns of notes, you're looking at them written down, and then you just rewrite that same pattern that you see, starting on the note that you want, and then you just change the new key signature on the staff. And then it basically just goes on to all those notes past it. So I think this makes it a lot easier than having to figure out all the notes that are in your new key and having to write your melody in accordance with those exact notes. All you have to do in this case is follow the exact pattern starting on the correct note, and then you just follow the same pattern as before. We just had a 1, 5, 3, 4, 6, 1. We could do that in any key. We could just put that on any note, and then you just change the accidentals over here, which tell you which key you're working with. So every time that this goes to an F or a C or a G or a D, it's automatically sharped, so it's automatically going to fit in those notes that are in the key. Okay, this brings us to the third method, which is understanding transposition further. Let's take this melody and analyze it on a simple level first. So we have C, D, E, G, E, F, B, and C. That is our melody. As we can see, we're analyzing it. It has no flats, it has no sharps. It starts on C and it ends on C. To me, it looks like C major. So we did a quick analyzation of this melody, and this is what you'd probably do in a lot of cases if you saw a melody or something, is you'd say, okay, what key is this in? And you'd kind of look at the notes and you'd analyze and figure out, okay, this fits C major more than anything else I could think of. So now let's analyze what the melody is doing in the context of C major. So in the context of C major, our melody is starting on the tonic, the 1. From the tonic, it is using stepwise motion to land on the median. It's going from the 1 to the 2 to the 3, using a few steps. And then from the 3 on the median, it uses a leap up to the dominant, which is our 5. Then from the dominant, our 5, it leaps back down to the median, our 3. From the median, it's up in stepwise motion again to the subdominant, so it just goes up from 3 to 4 using that one step in stepwise motion. And then from the subdominant, it leaps to the leading tone. It goes from the 4, it goes to the 7, diminished, so it goes right to that leading tone. And then from the lead tone, it ascends up to the tonic in stepwise motion. So it goes from that 7 diminished, what you want to call it, up to our 1, up to our tonic. So what happened was we identified each of the steps in our melody using Roman numerals and identified C as the tonal center. So now we can take those same steps and apply them into another key. Let's use a relative key. A relative key would be the subdominant or the dominant key of the tonic. Both share a strong connection to the tonic. So let's do an example. If we're in C major, our relative keys are F and G. F is the subdominant, G is the dominant. Also, when you look at the circle of fifths, you can see that F is one key to the left or down from C, a fifth down, while G is one key to the right or a fifth up from C. I have a video all about the circle of fifths, and again, this link will be in the description of this video. So furthermore, this means that our new key only changes one note when we go into a relative key. Let's take a look at that. We go from C major, and then we go into F major. As you can see, we only have that B flat. Other than that, everything is rearranged in a different order, but we only have a one accidental note difference when you're comparing the notes in each scale. We have a B flat here, but we have a B. Okay? Then we look at G major. It's the same thing, but instead we have only one F sharp. And other than that, we have the same thing as C major. So when we use relative keys, we're using keys that only change one note compared to our original key. Whether that is adding another note or subtracting another note, it is a one note difference from key to key. So let's quickly rephrase our melody pattern, and then we'll transcribe it in the beginning what we had our C, and then our F, and then our G. Okay, so now we're just going to rephrase what the pattern did. Okay, so our melody, it starts on the tonic. The tonic uses stepwise motion up to the median. The median leaps up to the dominant. The dominant leaps back down to the median. The median steps up to the subdominant. the subdominant leaps up to the leading tone, and the leading tone steps up one step to resolve to the tonic. So as you can see, when we're also talking about this, we're talking about the functions of what's going on within these notes, and if they were applied furthermore to actual chords, how they would function as chords. Which kind of helps you understand why this works when you're transposing things, because we're getting the same pattern of the same relationship of our notes to our tonic. We're going to start in C major. We have the scale of C major here. We're labeling it 1 through 7, this time with Roman numerals. And now our melody is going to be labeled in accordance. So we had our 1, 2, 3, 5, 3, 4, 7, and 1. But now what's happening is we're taking those numbers and we're kind of working in reverse compared to earlier. And now we're plugging in the actual notes that correlate. Okay, so I have the F major scale here. And again, I labeled the Roman numerals above it. And now I'm going to take that melody pattern and I'm going to plug it in to that F major scale. Then I have the G major scale, and as you can see, I have the notes in G major, and I labeled the Roman numerals above that. So now I'm going to take that same pattern of diatonic note functions as before, and I'm just going to plug in the notes that are in the key of G major. So as you can see here, I come out with this melody here from plugging in those notes to this pattern that I started with. So now I want to talk about why I'm doing this and what this is kind of showing. So I'm doing this to show you that it doesn't matter which key we're in, we're still going to have those same functions of notes, and if we did turn this into further harmony and we started harmonizing with chords, we would have the same chord functions. So this can kind of help you branch out to maybe some new ideas, maybe if you want to start using some inversions of chords and stuff like that, or whatever you wanted to do. This might just help you understand this topic more, because the fact that no matter what key you're in, you're still going to have your 1 being your tonic, you're going to have your 2 being your minor, which is also your supertonic, you're going to have your 3, which is your median, and yada yada, so on. You're going to have those specific functions labeled to each one of your notes, so that is also why this works so well when you change a melody from one key to another key. And kind of furthermore, the reason why this works even more is because our tuning system of music is built on an equal temperament tuning system, which actually allows an equal spacing of each note to the next note, which allows basically a homogeneous sound across the keyboard, especially like a piano or any instrument, because the notes have equal spaces in between them. This is actually a scale that is edited, that branches from nature. The one in nature is not so perfect, and we sort of edit it. It's called the equal temperament system of tuning, and because of that, like I was saying, everything can kind of sound the same no matter what key you're in, but it sounds like that different key. Okay, let's do one more to make sure we understand this last topic, step 3. So this time I'm not going to use a relative key. Again, I will start on the melody C major. So our melody in C is C, G, A, B, and C, and that is a 1, 5, 6, 7, and 1 if you're thinking about it in the diatonic notes. So now let's rewrite the same melody in D flat major. So D flat major has the notes D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, and C. So it's quite a lot of flats. It doesn't matter though. All we're going to do is we're going to get our 1, our 5, our 6, our 7, and our 1, and we're going to plug in the correct notes that correlate to that. So as you can see, we just have our same melody here. And now we know which chords we're going to be choosing if we want to further harmonize this melody, add accompaniment, or whatever. That is it for this first video on transposition. Thank you very much.